Hello, my friend, and welcome to the 404th episode of the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Today we have Mr. Harry Maziar. He is the author of Story Selling, Sage Advice and Common Sense About Sales and Success. Really smart dude. You can tell very quickly he is a seasoned citizen. He's got this deep, professional, soothing voice. He's got the confidence of having been there, done that. But what he brings to the table, that wisdom, that experience is still valid today. You know, telling stories is all about getting your message across. You tell stories to get your prospects to lower their defenses, right? We're all running around. We've been burned before. Our shields are up, set tasers to kill. And by telling stories, we connect to the part of the brain that really makes most of the decisions. We really do buy emotionally, and then we justify it with logic. And telling stories is the best way to do that. It's why Jesus used stories 2,000 years ago, and we're still reading them and still telling them. So how do you get your message across? We talk about Harry's hints. We talk about differentiating yourself, whether or not cold calls are still needed. Should you be closing still? We get into cool hand Luke. Why do apples turn brown? So a whole lot of things going on here. So a lot of powerful messages, which reminds me of a powerful message I've got for you from Intercom. What does insight-driven messaging look like for sales? Like a whole lot more deals, fast. Jump on high-intent leads in the moment with Intercom, the business messenger that extends the reach of your team 24/7. Intercom creates more opportunities for you by booking meetings and collecting data from leads automatically. Take Intercom user Elegant Themes. They now convert 25% of leads through Intercom's messenger. Deals don't wait. Get them with Intercom. Go to intercom.com/deals. That's intercom.com/deals. And I still have a deal for you, although the price is going up. 30daysalesgrowth.com. Check it out. You get a nice little welcome gift when you enroll. I've had some good folks joining. I just published the calendar for the live weekly calls for the rest of the year and actually going into the first week of January. This is a month-to-month program with an annual guarantee. Where else are you going to get that? And if you start now, I guarantee you it's less money than you're spending on your appetizers at your next business dinner. So get on board. The price will be going up later this year. It'll still be less expensive than your appetizers and drinks at your next business dinner. So it's still super affordable. But as I have built this out, all of the content is now in, all of the videos, all of the handouts, all of the worksheets, the workbook, and I'm constantly putting in new content as well. But it's all brought over from the Make Every Sale program, the 30-Day Sales Growth original program, the 7 Deadly Sins of Selling, the Better Prospecting System. It's all in there for a simple, affordable, low fee with no contract. So come join us, 30daysalesgrowth.com. All right, now let's bring on our guest. Harry Maziar, all the way from Atlanta, failed at retirement, author of Story Selling. Storytelling? I don't know. Story Selling? Welcome to the Sales Podcast. How the heck are you?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And it's tricky because the T is
got the slash on. Oh, I like it.
Everybody knows storytelling, but my book is Story Selling, how stories help you sell.
So I don't know what to do with you. You failed at retirement. You don't have some big offer, some masterful website. You're not some social media guru. You just know how to sell, right? Sage advice and common sense about sales and success. I thought we were going to talk about Snapchat and Instagram and Periscope live videos on Twitter. Is that not what we're talking about?
That's not what we're going to talk about. That's not my language. It reminds me of a story. May I share a story with you right from the go?
Bring it on.
I was riding years ago with my 5-year-old grandson, and he was eating an apple, and he said, "Pop, why is my apple turning brown? I said, Josh, that's a good question. But after you bite into an apple, oxygen is introduced and it forms enzymes like polyphenol oxide and or oxidase, and they react to form sort of a brown appearing coating on the apple. And Josh looked at me and he said, Pop, are you talking to me? Oh, what a great lesson that was. It reminded me of the old great movie Cool Hand Luke when the warden says, what we have here is a failure to communicate. And too often salespeople do have a failure to communicate. And, you know, they use the wrong words. They're either trying to impress someone or be fancy. But you've got to know the vernacular. You've got to talk in terms that customers understand. It's a critical lesson that my young grandson taught me very quickly.
Right. Yeah, that's so good. You know, my kids, they always laugh. Or like, they'll ask something. They'll go, oh, no, here comes one of Dad's analogies. You know, but they get it. Right. I've always said you got to meet them where they are.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. You got to go out, grab them, you know, with things they can understand. Then you can start to teach me about enzymes and all this other fancy stuff. I'm going to go back and listen to that.
But it's so true. I had a great chemist who worked for me for years, brilliant man. But you know, he was the type guy, if you ask him what time it was, he told you how a watch would work. You know, you didn't want to know that. And it was a story that he had twin daughters, and they asked their mother a question. She says, go ask your father. And their immediate response was, we don't want to know that much about it. Again, you gotta tell enough to inform, to answer questions, get the answer.
I remember being old enough to remember, basically saying the same thing to my dad about his dad. I was like, man, Dad, I asked Grandpa, you know, like, how does this motor work? And next thing I know, we're talking about World War I. And I mean, you know, I'm like, tell me about this carburetor, you know? It's like, but he would weave it in. And as I got older, you know, I'd appreciate it. But it was, I learned, right. And it stuck with me. And I want to, if you can remind me, I want to bring up what I consider the new ABCs of selling, but the old ABCs of selling. How long has that been around? Always be closing. And did you ever agree with that? And do you think that still applies today?
I really don't. I think that, you know, closing is critical. How do you get someone to confirm that they want the service or the product that you're selling? But there seems to have been a pressure element to that always be closing. And it does go back to the carnival barkers and the hucksters. Step right up, come this way, tell you what we're going to do. People are smarter than that now. The internet has changed the world. People have information. They're informed buyers. And you do need to close, but you need to make that an integral part of the conversation, not a direct action that demands a response. You lead people. You know, the old story is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. The trick is to make them thirsty. Well, if you make your customer thirsty, you don't have to be that hard closing guy. You got to make friends. You got to build relationships. Is it harder to do today in this world that's less tactile, where it's hard to even get face-to-face time? Sure, it's harder, but it is critical. Is it absolutely necessary for sustained sales success to make friends and create relationships? Yes. Amen. I'm a firm believer that people, when everything's equal, people want to buy from their friends. When things aren't equal, people still want to buy from their friends. Right. So you've got to make sure that selling is not just a hard closing, ask for the order, always be closing. Even though one of the biggest flaws of most salespeople is a refusal to ask for the order And why are salespeople reluctant to ask for an order? Very simply, they fear rejection. They don't want to know. And to avoid the no, they don't ask that closing question, or that question that demands an answer that hopefully is the one you want.
Right. Is it really harder to make friends and build relationships than, I don't know, 70s or 80s or even the 90s?
Oh, I think so. I think so because, again, of that impersonal internet, because of that bidding process, because of that, security that you can't go in the back door and talk to the person that's using the product as easily as you once were able to. You've got to get past that barrier. You've got to get past that guard, whatever it may be. So, yes, I do think it's a little bit harder. And you need to know more. Cold calls are yesteryear. Shame. If I don't know a little bit about what you do and how you do it, Wes, shame on me. The information was there. It was readily available. I must avail myself of that information. And the same thing when you're making calls. Know a little bit about the business. Know a little bit about their history. Know a little bit about their needs so that you are informed and you can answer questions and get that face-to-face appointment. Sometimes you've got to preface your visit with information that you've sent to them, with some way to differentiate yourself. I always tried to say there's no such thing as a commodity. You've got to differentiate yourself, whether it's with dress, whether it's with follow-up, whether it's with helping customers with leads, showing them a way to improve their business. Whatever it is, you've got to differentiate yourself with your customers to be unique and memorable.
Right. I know, like with security and caller ID, things, it's tougher in some ways. But I can look people up now. One of the first things I saw about you was your golf tournament. Right? I find on the interwebs.
Yeah.
I could find things out in literally 3 minutes that may have taken me, 3 weeks, 3 months, just 20 years ago in sales. Now, in the past, I could walk into a building. I used to go around the back where all the smokers were,
mm-hmm.
and just hang out and read their badges and just start chatting them up. I can't tell you how many times I was just walked right in with the smoker after their smoke break and just given run of the building to go see people.
Exactly.
But you can still kind of do that. You can still talk with them. And I think in some ways it's like they're more isolated because of the internet and technology, but I think they're like hungrier than ever for that relationship. So if you do find a little something about them, they perk right up and they're almost more desperate for connection. Are you seeing that?
Oh, absolutely. And, you were wise enough and clever enough to go around the back and find us. I did the same thing. We sold hand soap at Zeppin back in my old selling days. And I would find 6 or 8 guys standing around. And I'd say, okay, who's got the dirtiest hands here? Well, they had nothing to do with purchasing, Who's got and one guy would say, I do. And he'd stick his hands out. And I'd say, oh, man, you look like a piano player. Give me somebody with dirty hands. Throw some of my goop on them or whatever it was, right. And they would say, boy, that works pretty good. I said, yeah, well, thank you. Who do I have to see to get you guys to start using this? And right. You worked it from the bottom. And when you have the people who are using that product recommending to purchasing, hey, we use some stuff that we like, you're way ahead of the game. In the same way, you found access to places that normally one didn't by being clever, by being entrepreneurial, by making friends of those workers in the back. Again, creativity. People have to use their imagination. They've got to differentiate. And it's so critical to sales. And there's still room for that. And I agree with your premise that people like people. They need people. They want information. They want relationships. And right. You've got to work hard to build them.
So you talk about starting at the bottom. And there's a lot of people. I've had Anthony Parinello on. He wrote the Selling DeVito series, The Very Important Top Officer. When should you start at the bottom or the middle or the top, or should you try to hit all three simultaneously?
Well, I always found that I wanted to not necessarily talk to the president. I wanted to talk to the lowest person on the totem pole who could make the decision I wanted.
Okay.
That was my standard. And if the guy using it on the line was able to order what he needed from a supply standpoint, that was good enough. If it had to bounce up to a supervisor, fine. If it had to go to the purchasing department, fine. But there wasn't many C-suite calls that you had to make, particularly when you were selling industrial maintenance materials. I joke that selling ZEP was not a life and death matter. It was much more important than that.
Right. Yeah, my life or death.
Yeah, exactly.
But what if, so you're selling industrial maintenance, but maybe you're selling to a corporation that has, 50 plants across the country. Would you still just hit like the one in your backyard and try to work your way, get an introduction, vertically or horizontally into another division?
A good salesperson needs to be multifaceted, and one size does not fit all. And when you're talking about someone, you're talking about companies that with either approved vendor list or exclusive product representation, and you won't get that from a simple lower plant. You can start there and get it bounced up to where you need to go. I mean, we sold major people like the Ryder system or like Hertz. Well, the Hertz office in Atlanta, Georgia, didn't make the decision nationally as to who was going to be approved. So you ended up having to go to where the power was, be it New York or be it Chicago or wherever it may have been. So again, you can't get all 50 plants by having a friend and a relationship in a single plant in wherever it's Baton Rouge, Louisiana, or Atlanta, Georgia, or Denver, Colorado.
Right.
So you got to be flexible enough to adapt yourself to the needs of that customer and to the purchasing procedures of that customer. But don't be afraid of them.
Right.
Many salespeople are intimidated by that size. If you've got a good product, if it's fairly priced, if your supply lines are good and you can get it to it on time, in time, have the courage to get in front of people and tell your story and, again, win their respect and trust and confidence and purchase order.
Right. How does someone differentiate themselves today? Because it's noisy, right? Ads are expensive. Everybody's got caller ID. We're robocalls are blowing up. We're afraid to answer the phone. We're hiding behind social media. How do I get a chance? But my clients I always talk to, we're fantastic once we get in front of a qualified prospect. Like, well, that's your job, is to get in front of a qualified prospect. How do they differentiate themselves going into 2020?
It is more difficult. It is more challenging. It takes more calls. It takes more preparation. You have to be willing to pay that price and to work. I use Harry's hints a lot, and one of my favorites is the best rules of success won't work unless you do. Mm-hmm. So the point is, you send emails to customers. You let them know, or prospects, you let them know who you are. You do knock on that door. You try to make a friend of that gatekeeper, that secretarial person or administrative person that's sitting in that office. I use trinkets. I never made a call without leaving a little something. We used fountain pens. We used screwdrivers. We used, in the old days, cigarette lighters. We used pocket knives. Anything cost $1 or so, nothing more than $1. I used flashlights. And again, after a while, I need another flashlight. I mean, every time I made a call, someone was more interested in a flashlight than they were in anything else I had to say. The flashlights were single purpose. You couldn't put a battery in them. So I knew that the light would go out and then they would have to have another flashlight. and they were imprinted in the Zep days. A cute little aside is that the Zep tagline was first in maintenance, clean across America. And when I retired, my kids said, "Pop, we hope you can live without the job. We really hope you can live without the money, but we know you can't live without the flashlights." So they had some flashlights printed for me to use in retirement that rather than saying first in maintenance, clean across America, they put first in high maintenance.
Ah.
They knew their dad. They didn't admit which one of the three kids came up with that barb. But even to this day, while I couldn't get those flashlights anymore, I still have flashlights that I give indiscriminately. Mm-hmm. But they don't say first in maintenance anymore. They just say Harry's friend. And, right. How many maitre d's, how many places have I been where that flashlight has made more impact and gotten me more of what I wanted than anything I can imagine. So right. With me, a differentiator was a flashlight. It could be an article that you read about that has relevance to a company or a prospect that you're calling on that you send to them. Keep your eyes open, listen, be a good listener. Boys, that's probably the single biggest trait that salespeople misuse.
Right.
They think selling is about talking, when effective selling is really about listening. And what's the old story? Talking is sharing. Listening is caring. There's a lot of difference there, and the people who care make friends and build relationships. But to answer your question, there's no simple procedure to get past the gatekeeper, to win a friend, to get that face time. It's hard work, but it's application and it's consistency and it's persistency. You've got to stay at the task and know you're going to get a lot of no's. But That's okay. What does no mean? Not now. Get back at another time in a different fashion. Right.
Well, that brings me up, to a little note I wrote here, consistency versus creativity. Is it better to just be consistent, just be showing up, be in their inbox, be on their voicemail, or be more creative, send cute things, interesting things that makes you stand out? Have you seen one trump the other, or is it a little bit of both?
Consistency and creativity, I think, were the 2 points that you were making. Is there a more important one? I think creativity starts the ball rolling. Then after you get the ball rolling and after you've created whatever it is you're trying to create, a prospect, a customer, consistency is critical. To show up on time, in time, enough times is absolutely critical. But creativity is back to the differentiation. It's back to there's no such thing as a commodity. It's back to showing how you are the answer, how you are a better choice. And that requires creativity in dozens of ways. And for every business, every service, every industry, that may have a different template as to what is creative for that particular purpose. But you've got to keep that creativity alive and well at all times.
Yeah. Are you still consulting with individuals or companies, bringing in your book, or how are you engaging them today?
What do? I still serve on a couple of boards, for-profit boards.
Okay.
I serve on a half a dozen community boards, not-for-profit, and I'm still an executive in residence at Kennesaw State University here in Atlanta. Kennesaw was one of the first schools, and still one of only a handful of schools, that offers a 4-year degree in professional selling.
Nice.
We have a Center for Professional Selling there that's wonderful, that I had a little hand in helping to create 20 or so years ago. And we graduate each year hundreds of young men and women with a degree in sales who choose to be in sales. There's a National Collegiate Sales Competition each year that's held at Kennesaw State University every March. And, the job fair that follows that is incredible. Every one of these participants, there are 60 or 75 schools that will send a team of 2 to compete for prizes. And they're judges, professional judges that judge these young men and women, and we pick winners. And the job fair follows the competition. And every one of these 150 or so participants has multiple job offers. These are people who are trained. They've been in programs at universities that do emphasize sales and not just marketing, but selling. When I first got there, the sales program there, we were graduating people with a sales degree that had never sold anything. I said, time out. We can't do that. I don't care if they're selling alumni memberships, if they're selling something to the golf tournament that the school sponsors. I want anyone that comes out of Kennesaw State University with a degree in professional sales to have sold something. And today they all do. And most of them, of course, are in some sort of program while they're still going to university. But I'm a firm believer that education is important, and that has kept my interest and my passion working with these students through the years who have chosen a career in sales. And it's very satisfying to see them graduate and get employed and enjoy their lives and get on the path of success.
Yeah, that's cool. On the boards that you sit on, the for-profit boards, what are some common struggles that they are grappling with? Is there a theme that you're seeing in them trying to grow, hurdles they have to overcome in today's crazy, hectic world?
Well, they're disparate. One is in the real estate business industry. One is technology, medical device. And the problems differ, of course. But the problem that every company has is to attract, train, motivate, and retain good people, whether they're salespeople or whether they're administrative people, whether they're in the accounting department or in the lab or wherever it may be. That's the mission of every business. Attract, train, motivate, retain. And you do that by creating an environment that's with it. For the millennials coming along now, it's got to be different than what it was when I was coming along. People used to go to work for the company store because daddy worked for the company store, and they spent 20, 30, 40 years, and now they write songs, take this job and shove it. People are gone before the average graduate coming out of college today will have, are you listening, Wes? 12 jobs in a career.
Right.
12 jobs, sometimes 2 or 3 career changes. Dancers want to be singers, singers want to be dancers. And wow, how do you deal with that? The cost to bring in additional people and train them and keep your company afloat and growing and dynamic and robust is the number one, I think, challenge of every business. And, in your part of the world, they invented all of the break rooms and free lunches and coffee machines that with brewed Starbucks coffee. And my perks are nicer than your perks, and, working from home and dozens of different environmental changes and workplace changes that accommodate that person today, flex hours, all those things that you have to do to make your company attractive. Now, do you have to pay? Of course you have to pay. Do you have to have the right benefits? Of course you do. But so many companies have that. Now, that's just vanilla. You have to put something on top of that, whether it's more training to make that person better at what he or she does, whether it's an environment that's encompassing and invigorating and team building. All those are critical to success.
So what are you seeing, I mean, with these companies that, because at one point, I mean, you can take this too far, right? Everybody gets a unicorn and it's a 1-day work week and 6 massages a week. And, we're just the best place to work versus like, you know what? Just show up and work. We're going to pay you well. We're going to dominate the market. We're going to train you well. You're going to work for the number one company, have pride in where the heck you work. And you know what? We'll be stable and we'll grow and you won't have to change jobs 12 times because you'll be fulfilled right here. I mean, where's the mix? How does a company determine, that how many perks to give versus just do your damn job and take pride in it?
Well, it's a good question. And I grew up in an environment where just go do your job. And if you do your job, we'll pay you, and you'll have a job tomorrow. It's not enough today. All those cutesies are important, but still what's critical to people's comfort and to their staying with a company, to me, comes down to 2 things: recognition and reward. People want to be included. They want to be a part of it. You want to get Harry's goat? Ignore me. That's worse than hitting me upside my head. I'd rather you hit me upside my head than ignore me. So you need to involve the people that you're working with and are working for you. And you need to be generous in your recognition. That doesn't mean everybody gets a trophy, but when somebody does something, point it out, share it with the other people. And, again, money is not on the top of the list when you look at all the surveys, but it's still pretty important. You better be competitive and you better show incentives. I grew up in a commission world. It's almost a dirty word today. It's salary and bonus, but you eat what you kill when I came up. If you sold it, you made money. And again, it's harsh and it's tough. And, we had 2,000 reps at ZEP. 2,000.
That's amazing.
1,500 in North America and about 500 throughout Europe. It's just, some in other parts of the world, but those were the 2 main concentrations. and what turned those people on? Certainly an opportunity to gain recognition and reward, but inclusiveness. We met with those people regularly. They had direct channels to talk with anybody and everybody. There were no untouchables. There were no doors that were locked that they couldn't get in. There was opportunities to suggest or to bitch, whichever they wanted. And that open environment made people feel a part of what they were doing, like they controlled their destiny. And yes, they had to sell to earn, but we made it fun. There was competition. Good salespeople like competition. Contest, rewards, again, recognition. Those are critical elements to me to building a sales force, motivating a sales force, retaining a sales force.
Would you always promote from within, or is it ever advisable to bring in, a sales manager from the outside?
I think that smart companies promote from within. It creates career paths that's a turn on for people too. Now, in certain specialty areas, you got to go outside, and there's nothing wrong with that. That created the whole industry. The search firms are gigantic, and executive search firms are big business today, where I think people have a failing in not having developed the next generation of leadership. The bigger the companies, you would think, the more likely they are to have the resources to develop good number 2s and 3s that can step up. But yet, for some reason, those big companies often go outside to bring in new talent. And I think there's some benefit to that. You get different experiences, you get different skill sets, you get different ways of resolving problems. That's not all bad, but I lean, if you had to pick a side, Harry, I like promoting from within if it's at all possible.
I guess that's assuming you've developed your salespeople to be leaders, right? Because just because I'm number one in my territory or whatever in sales doesn't mean I'd be a good manager.
Oh, for sure. And that skill enhancement is an absolute must and a critical component of building a successful and viable company. And it's just, there's only so much you learn by doing it on the job. You bring professionals in to help people in different areas. And we had both an in-house capability and we used outside consultants to come in to talk to us. You may call it, some people call it edutainment. And it's probably a little of that. It's some education and it's some entertainment, because these guys and gals that came in to talk to our people were pros. They'd been there and done that. And it was a different perspective. And it wasn't just listening to Harry again or listening to one of our sales VPs again. It was a different approach and a different face. But I still lean toward developing your people, giving them the skills, bringing the resources they need to be better, send them where they need to be better for training. And again, that's what develops the next generation of leaders.
So what are we going to get from your book, huh? What do our listeners, what do they learn? Story selling, sage advice, and common sense about sales and success.
Yeah. Well, again, this little red book can change your life, all right? And I don't say that with a profit motive, in all fairness, Wes. In fact, in the introduction, I say, in an effort to pay back all the people who helped me, I plan to give half of any profits from this business to charity. And then I said, make that 49%. A good salesperson is always in control. And then I said, oh, what the heck, let's give it all to charity. So any money that's realized from this, and I've had 2 or 3 royalty checks to this point, excuse me, that have been passed on to charities. But I wrote a sales letter each week for 27 years when I was president. And at the end of that sales letter, there was a Harry's hint, a little box with like things you see on church bulletin boards. The first page was a motivational message of some sort. The second page was happenings around Zeppelin, price increases, product discontinuation, whatever it may be. Then the third page was a close and a Harry's hint. And the reps used to tell me, Harry, I don't even read those first 2 pages. I just go right to the hints because I love the hints. And they were on church bulletin boards all over the world. And there are 50 chapters in this book, and each chapter title is a Harry's hint. And then the chapter expands and plays on that hint with a story that I think is important and relevant and helps someone be the best that he or she can be. Stories sell, there's no question. Hints like, there's a mighty big difference between good sound reasons and reasons that sound good. A hint like, I must do something will always solve more problems than something must be done. Hints like, the selling is a trick, but it isn't trickery. And so again, there is a difference between a trick and trickery. And so these are little easy to read stories, bathroom reading, bedside reading, takes about an hour and a half to read the whole book. And there are principles and lessons of relationship building and sales. And it's not a how to overcome an objection. It's not about what is a good opening or a good close. They're just stories that are relevant. People have been telling stories since the beginning of time. Everyone's in sales. Everyone needs to be better at it. And again, it starts early. But we're all selling from the moment we get up till we go to bed at night. We're persuading, we're encouraging, we're negotiating, we're trying to convince someone to our point of view or to our product or to our way of living. And again, this book is hopefully a little guideline to help people get there.
I heard too that in the second edition, you're adding another hint to listen to the sales podcast. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. If you're not involved with the Sales Whisperer, shame on you. I start my day every day with the Sales Whisperer. Just as you should start your day every day.
With Harry's Hints.
Harry's Hints and story selling.
So I do want to know, like, when these kids are going through that program at Kennesaw, do you tell them, sell me this pen? Do you make them sweat?
I really don't think that's the case anymore. But we do bring in outside people. You know, we have a board of 25 or so Atlanta companies who choose to be a part of the program. Some is their love of the profession and paying back, and some is recruiting. They get first dibs on many of these people coming out of this. But these adjunct professors are terrific, and I've got nothing against academia, but it's good to have people who are living it right now and can relate their experiences and their frustrations and their wins and their losses. And so, again, it's not so basic of sell me this pen, which is still not the worst thing in the world to do. You know, elevator speeches are still not the worst thing in the world to have. You ought to be able to tell your story quickly from the first to the 10th floor.
Right.
Why you're the answer. What do you bring that benefits that prospect or customer?
Right. Amen. Well, if y'all ever need a left coast perspective, let me know.
All right. That's good to know.
Make sure it's right around that golf tournament.
You look like you played to about a 6, I guess.
Oh, no, I was never that good. I got down to about a 13. But yeah, I don't play so much.
We can play together. That's about where I am.
I do a little more jiu-jitsu than golf now. And the joints just don't hold up to golf. But, if anybody tries to attack you on the golf course, I will defend you. All right.
I like it.
And the short game's still pretty good. So, I'll contribute that way.
Good for you. Sounds like with that family of yours, you've got a full-time job.
It's a full-time job. So actually my 21-year-old is taking up a slight interest in golf. I would take the boys when they were young and they, I don't know, never took. But my second son, we've been to the range a couple of times, and it's always fun to see a good athlete lose their mind at the driving range. They're like, how is this so hard? Because everything he was a great baseball player, great football player, and he's much more athletic than I ever was. He can do front flips, back flips, standing just on the ground. I'm like, no way. Trampolines, crazy, gainers off a high dive. I'm like, I could never do any of that.
Yeah.
That little ball just sitting still, just waiting to be smacked. He's like,
isn't it amazing?
Why does this not work? I'm like, yeah. And Dad, I can still teach you a thing or two.
Putts. Yeah. That can ruin your day. Nothing will. Yeah.
Oh, man. Great times. All right. Harry Maziar, all the way from Atlanta, Georgia. Thanks for coming on the Sales Podcast. It's been great.
It's been great being with you, Wes. Thanks so much. You're good at what you do, and it shows, buddy.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye now.
I told you this was a good one. What a good dude. What you see is what you get. He was super professional. He had some help getting started. It's nice. You have a little team. Say, hey, come plug this stuff in so I can just look good, sit down, sound good, make it happen. But hey, have the trinkets to leave behind, make friends with the receptionist, be a good listener. Talking is sharing, listening is caring. So many great things. Go back and listen to this. Check out the notes on the whatever device you're using. It's in the notes there, but go to the website as well. I link to Harry's books. I link to what he's doing at Kennesaw State. And then when you buy books from my website or click through my affiliate links, it gives me a few nickels, helps put food on the table. So I appreciate you doing that. It's the same price whether you go through me or not. So show some love, would you? And like I said, 30daysalesgrowth.com. Check it out. I've got a little welcome gift for everyone that joins now, and it is still super affordable. Month to month, no contract. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. Live weekly calls, on-demand content, private group, ask questions. I'll answer them, as soon as I can, which is usually same day, if not the same hour. So there's nowhere else you can get help like this from someone with my experience and get it at this price, all right, which is going up. So take advantage of it now. 30daysalesgrowth.com. Thanks for listening. I'll go sell something.